So with this page, I just want to briefly go over what it's about and what happened to it. First and foremost, this was an ordinary situation with an Afrocentric cult leader. It's something very personal to me. A lot of personal things happened. I won't be expanding on everything. As I said, this will be very brief. I have older videos that you can look into to get an idea, if not a full picture of it. But I had a very personal and pretty much supernatural experience with that, as I'm showing here, as did a lot of people. And most of those people, it would lead them to join his cult, much like the Stan movie I likened it to, since it had to do with dreams. And to see a phenomenon like that gain traction in a positive light, but since there is a status quo to enshrine him because he talked black and acted black as some sort of victim, or you always turned a blind eye to their behavior when they're being in bad behavior like that. Um, it was something I thought I would try to illuminate by mirroring in a way that Gavin Newsom is becoming popular, more popular, I should say, with sort of the same thing, if not exactly the same thing, with Trump. And also, typically, I'd always made the point that Libs of TikTok was something that, Libs of TikTok had utilized the same formula that I did. And I'm not saying that they looked at my page and did the same thing, but to me, it's not a flex. Maybe I do deserve some royalties from it, but I definitely deserve notoriety for what I was doing and what I attempted to do, which ultimately I regret to have any sort of humanitarian effort around what I was doing because of what I saw in 2020 take place. What was isolated to maybe a fringe group of even woke people being open to this idea of, so they're against white supremacy but not black supremacy, to the extent that these people believe that they're your gods. That's point blank what I'm showing here. They believe that they made you and that they fell from grace, and you're basically genetically modified cavemen that took them over. Okay. Um, there's various iterations of the story, but it's that Jacob myth kind of thing. And now it's a whole sexualized caste system around that. And that's just what it is post 2020. And, I have a lot of regret in me that I had any sort of favoritism with anybody other than defending myself and trying not to see a world uh, become so fucking deprived as it is now, for myself, if anything. So I don't regret that, but still, um, that wasn't the case back then. I know things were really woke, but I didn't see a wholesale alignment with Afrocentric ideology. But see, there was a time, believe it or not, where that was so fringe that most blacks weren't even on board with that, or didn't even know that there was an ideology that was like that. From what I noticed, that was only fringe people that were exposed in particular areas where Nation of Islam or Moorish Science Temple or that Moorish shit was thriving like that. Maybe they would have shined there and gathered a lot of people, but you know, see, and it's all tied into the same sort of sexual depravity, like this Epstein stuff, Diddy stuff. No one questions that because it had to be black, and it's just what it is. I mean, it is. Like, you wouldn't have a whole society regimented into this gyrating to them degrading you and glorifying antisocial behavior to that extent. Honorless thugs. Um, if you weren't mind controlled, in other words, and it's hypocritical, of course, that sure, Trump deserves what you're doing to him, but I know that you'll never properly address this, and it doesn't matter anymore. If you do, See, like what I'm saying about myself here is none of this really matters because people like this don't care about anything unless there's hype generated around it. You know, if Gavin Newsom wasn't a politician or whatever, I guess today, if he started, he'd probably have to be the influencer to get any traction like that. Like this guy trying to get his attention. It's funny to see. Uh, no one would care about what this guy's doing in any extent if it was for like Kanye West pushing Fuentes and that sort of personality around that stuff. You know, and even Fuentes, not too long ago, he couldn't talk like he was these days. He didn't. He didn't even do that. He towed the line and he said trust the plan, and you know he hardly would criticize Israel from back then. He's very vague about maybe being pro-Hitler and stuff. It wasn't until recently that a lot of these guys would even use the term woke and stuff. Like these people that, like Charlie Kirk, for example, a lot of those guys are very watered down and just generic. But gate kept in a good way because I don't care about this stuff anymore. I've had my criticisms against Israel in the past. I've had a lot of criticisms in that direction that I've shed because they actually have the world against him now, and they're more defiant than ever and everything. And I'm not saying I defend what's going on there in general, but it's just the principle that that is such a small people and location with the world against them, and they still are very prideful about who they are and everything, you know, whereas you had never stood for anything. And now when you want to talk about greed and all these, you know, disgusting characteristics of Jews that you bring up and stuff, there is never probably in the history of mankind being such a greedy people than like particularly these whites have sold out to Kremlin and stuff like this, you see, and are embracing the idea of Skynet to own the Jews like this, you see. So yeah, the title's a little bit lighthearted about him owing me reparations or royalty, but um, that's just what it was about like that. You know, it speaks for itself, but there's a lot of things going on in it that might come off a bit boyish or a bit, I don't know, but I know exactly what I was doing at the time. And the videos that are missing now that I took down for reasons personal to me in 2019 had nothing to do with me being scared of them. It was they stayed up a long time, so that damage was done or whatever. If I was afraid, you know, my foot was already in the door like that. I had my own personal reasons that I took the videos down. It's going to come back a lot stronger. But if you know my story about 2019, a lot of things happened to me. Wasn't able to do that in a way that I wanted to. So uh, the videos, though, would apply a lot of context and a lot of tone that maybe some of the posts and stuff dilute, that make it look a little bit, you know, too joking around. No, it's a very serious situation. It's a very fucking big deal to me. Just like people, you know, supernatural is just glossed over to a mainstream extent now. Like that happens every day. Like these viral videos are every day now. Millions of views every day with the compilations and stuff. Still, everybody's just waking up and want to pay taxes and supporting the system that's going to kill them. That's all that's happening. So whether it's the JQ people are enlightened about, or maybe they'll wake up to the Afrocentric stuff, like I'm saying. You got your scapegoat right here, your golden ticket to maybe change the world if you win this one with the Epstein file stuff. But other than that, you're still going to be the same people that enabled all this to begin with. And that's all I have to say. Last thing to throw in is how encompassing he was with everything wrong with the world at that time. And it was way more shock value than Trump was extremely isolated by the media with things that were not damaging enough. And as you see, they weren't. I think if you would address Epstein files and various things about him that you see now relentlessly, back then, of course, he would not have the following that he does now. It would have even pulled in some of the most diehard MAGA cultists into, you know, whatever net you could have snagged them into, of course, with that, if not just the absolute truth of what's happening. Because what I saw from left and right with the media in general was even more the left, more so, uh, was his biggest success because any publicity is good publicity in that way. Because I would hear it every day, see it every day. If I had to, you know, it's not my choice of turning on the TV and seeing this, but it would be uh, any of these late night people, any of whatever it was, I would see online. It didn't matter if it was TV or online. Uh, just making very infantile remarks about him when you really could have been way more cutthroat. So the 13th Son embodied like more of a shock value and a fresh person to observe, and not so desensitized as people are with Trump about a lot of things, because he just has that going for him in the way that he carries himself nonchalantly about, obnoxious things. But on its face, if you don't attach, um, unfortunately, I'm not saying it's, my position on how he talked about, the so-called locker room talk. The first big thing about him that I noticed people were talking about. Um, if that would if that was initially attached to the teen models and how he would go into their dressing rooms and stuff, I think that would have caught more traction, for example. So, uh, what's funny about what I'm saying with all encompassing and a huge embodiment of uh, political and spiritual and the egotistical like this, for people to reflect on, and possibly had prevented a lot of this stuff now, um, is that you see people like this, like I was showing Dom Lucre earlier, that's attached to Donnie Darkened, which needs way more exposure. It's not just someone who lives rent free in my head. That's a big deal. That for some reason, Trump has these connections to these Q cultists that do controlled opposition, which, I mean, there are people that genuinely believe he's an antichrist and stuff. Um, Even before he started running, because there's all this like predictive stuff going on in these movies and everything. But with the Q cultists, there are these guys like Donnie Darkin that actually run simultaneous pages with his actual name attached, Mark Lutchman, uh, spreading a gospel about him in a good light while they're saying he's an antichrist under the Donnie Darkin pseudonym. So why is that? Why does he want this lore attached to him like that? And that's the other thing that I was very much about through my 13 Immortal Rights page like that. And of course, you see where the name 13 Immortal Rights is a dovetail sort of off of the theme of any publicity and mocking him, because any publicity was something he would say a lot in his videos. He talked about his haters attacking him and stuff. Well, you see him threatening me, like I was complimented in DMs and stuff back then. No one had ever made him lock his account down like that, make it private, like he did for about a month, and a lot of things that, I shook him about. But that's all I want to throw in is like, this had the potential, if it would have gained traction, instead of shadow banning me and whatever else happened back then, when I would just simply mirror what he was saying, Jack Dorsey had prioritized him instead, it looked like. Or the staff, whatever. Yeah, that's what it looked like. And what I would see propaganda wise the most back then was not uh, a Kremlin bot push to no end, like you see everywhere in every comment section now. Um, it was these strange paid Afrocentric YouTube channels and stuff like Dank Holloway and all this disgusting, obnoxious culture vulture stuff. And then it led up into the climax of 2020 like that. And now it's just, you see how it is now. I can't even look at a trend on Twitter if it's not like strictly maybe, if it's not strictly vanilla politics as a trend on Twitter, it's usually going to have something attached to being interracial porn stuff. To say it really mildly. This might sound like a goofy thing to throw up, but it's something that should make you throw up. To think that Android 18 was trending. I remember last year around this time. You probably could just search that name right now. It's a DBZ character. Sort of a very nostalgic character from my childhood. And the first thing that you see, and the only thing that you'll see as you scroll down, is nothing but, you know what, hentai. a gangbang of Android 18. Nobody's going to address that. I don't think Gavin Newsom's going to talk about that, but I went out of my way to attempt to address some of those things. My page right now, other than more recent things, which we're not going to talk about, it speaks for itself. But through and through, very dynamic. And for the most part of the first and somewhat second year of that was a lot of me just probing into the mind of those shills on there, and also um, putting out a lot of repellent for some people from my past. But giving a tutorial on my current page is something totally different. I'm not going to do it. It's only more recently holding the face that maybe would have had been something post 2019. And I would have done it with a lot of grace and skill, because as chaotic as I might seem, and as thorny and repellent as the word I just used, as I might seem to people, I can be the exact opposite. But why? I'm only doing things that is trying to generate a defiance and revive a relatability that was dormant in somebody or had been shunned, like I had experienced before. But I never caved into pressure. I never conformed to this type of society. So if everybody is just militantly against my way of life, I have no reason to do that. That was my position back then, as dangerous as it should look to people. It was a very dangerous situation that I put myself into. Nobody was caring about that, and I still did that. I didn't know how much people didn't care, to a pretty great extent, though, until if 2020 had happened already, that's delusional. But what I was doing was preemptive all the way. And though I was apolitical, I'm going to end it with these clips. It seems like the Democrats have proven themselves to make a distinction about themselves regardless here, because it's unanimous on the right to protect pedophiles like this, and that's just point blank.
Madam Chair, the Epstein files concern issues of abuse of women and abuse of children. As the chair of the Democratic Women's Caucus, you often see me raising issues of we need to address this. And not only that, but Republicans and the MAGA world have said they want to know about this. Your constituents want to know. So the question is, why are they not just releasing them? And I think it's a simple thing to do. And you're going to be asked to vote whether you require the release. That's going to be a simple vote. Will you require the release? Is there anything that needs to be hidden? If there isn't, then just release the files. Silence those who would question it. So every Republican on this committee should be able to easily vote yes. That is the vote you will be making as to whether it should go forward to the floor for that vote. So you, with your vote, will be preventing even the consideration of the release of the Epstein files. You will be voting against the release of the Epstein files. You have the power. Let's see how you vote.
Hearing none, the question's on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The amendment's not
Madam
agreed
Chair, I'm
to.
kind of shocked by that. I will ask for a roll call.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Fitchbach? No. Mrs. Fitchbach, no. Mr. Norman? Yes. Mr. Norman, aye. Mr. Roy? Mrs. Houchin? Mrs. Houchin, no. Mr. Langworthy? Mr. Langworthy, no. Mr. Scott? Mr. Scott, no. Mr. Griffith? Mr. Griffith, no. Mr. Jack?
No.
Mr. Jack, no. Mr. McGovern?
Aye.
Mr. McGovern, aye. Ms. Scanlon? Yes. Ms. Scanlon, aye. Mr. Neguse? Yes. Mr. Neguse, aye. Ms. Leisure-Fernandez? Aye. Ms. Leisure-Fernandez, aye. Madam Chair?
No.
Madam Chair, no.
The clerk will report the total.
5 yeas, 7 nays.
The noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to. And I think most of us believe what's appropriate will be released when it is time for the...
On this vote, the yeas are 211, the nays are 210. The previous question is ordered. The question is on adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. On this vote, the yeas.
Christchurch senior pastor Doug Wilson makes no apologies for his beliefs on God and country.
I'd like to see the town be a Christian town. I'd like to see the state be a Christian state. I'd like to see the nation be a Christian nation. I'd like to see the world be a Christian world.
And now Wilson's controversial views as a Christian nationalist are gaining sway in the nation's center of power with the recent opening of his new church and high-profile parishioners like Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Is planting a church in D.C. part of your mission to try to turn this into a Christian nation?
Yes. So every society is theocratic. The only question is who's theo? In a secular democracy, it would be demos, the people. In a Christian republic, it'd be Christ.
Well, what would you say to someone watching this and say, look, I'm a Muslim. Who are you to say your worldview is better than mine, that your God is better than mine?
Well, if I went to Saudi Arabia, I would fully expect to live under their God's rules.
But you said earlier that you want this to be a Christian world.
Yes.
So you want to supplant their religion with your Christian.
Yes, by peaceful means, by sharing the gospel. There's a lot of work yet to do. I believe that we are working our little corner of the vineyard.
Wilson's Little Corner, a picturesque campus nestled on the outskirts of downtown Moscow, Idaho, is growing by the day with thousands of like-minded Christians. Parishioners of his church, known as Kirkers, own and operate several businesses downtown, next to liberal college town stores.
If it's true,
Why did he yell boo? It's because it's
because of me.
because of you.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
That's a regular day for you.
That's not unusual.
A big focus of his Christian movement is on a patriarchal society where men are dominant and women are expected to submit to their husbands.
Women are the kind of people that people come out of.
So you just think they're meant to have babies. That's
Well,
it. They're just a vessel.
No, it doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically. The wife and mother, who is the chief executive of the home, is entrusted with 3 or 4 or 5 eternal souls.
I'm here as a working journalist, and I'm a mom of 3.
Good for you.
Is that an issue
No.
for you?
No, it's not automatically an issue.
Josh and Amy Prince, along with their 4 kids, moved here from Washington State.
Do you see Amy as your equal?
Yes and no, in the sense that we're both saved by grace. We're absolutely on equal footing, but we have very different purposes, God-given.
But do you see yourself as the head of the household, as the man?
He is the head of our household.
Yes.
Yes, and I do submit to him.
So like moving here
I was just gonna say that.
ultimately your decision.
Yes.
That's a great
example.
Wilson says in his vision of a Christian society, women as individuals shouldn't be able to vote. His fellow pastors Jared Longshore and Toby Sumter agree.
In my ideal society, we would vote as households. And I would ordinarily be the one that would cast the vote, but I would cast the vote having discussed it with my household.
But what if there's your wife doesn't want to vote for the same person as you?
Right. Well, then that's a great opportunity for a good discussion.
There are some who have gone so far as to say that they want the 19th Amendment repealed.
I would support that. And I'd support it on the basis that the atomization that comes with our current system is not good for humans.
And Wilson, a veteran himself, is unapologetic about his view that women shouldn't be in certain leadership or combat roles.
Looking at the leadership page for Christchurch, it's all men. Do you accept women in leadership roles in the church and in government?
In the church, no.
Why?
Because the Bible says not to.
Well, that's not what happens in the Bible. Women do lead all the time.
Progressive faith leader Reverend Jennifer Butler is concerned about Wilson's growing influence.
He is rapidly gaining in power. He has hundreds of churches established around the country. They actually literally want to take over towns and cities, and they have access to this administration.
Wilson is part of a broader Christian nationalist movement making inroads with the Trump administration, with a newly created faith office led by evangelical pastor Paula White Cain, and people seen right outside the White House entrance praying and speaking in tongues.
We are standing on the soil of the White House, and we are declaring your word.
How precious.
And now there's a monthly prayer service at the Pentagon, initiated by Hegseth, Wilson's highest level connection to the administration.
It's not organizationally tied to us, but it's the kind of thing we love to see.
For his part, Hegseth has publicly praised Wilson.
Now we're standing on the shoulders of a generation later, the Doug Wilsons and the others.
Wilson's influence spans the globe with more than 150 churches. Lennox Califungwa moved to Moscow from Africa.
It's really because I wanted to be a part of a community that was doing something, and especially in building Christian institutions.
Are there other black families in this community?
Oh, absolutely. There's a few black families.
Wilson maintains all are welcome to his church, but he's also not shying away from his past controversial statements on race.
Do you still believe what you said back in the 90s, that there's a mutual affection between master and slave?
Yes, it depends on which master and which slave you're talking about. Slavery was overseen and conducted by fallen human beings, and there were horrendous abuses, and there were also people who owned slaves who were decent human beings and didn't mistreat them. I think that system of chattel slavery was an unbiblical system, and I'm grateful it's gone.
What he also wants gone, same-sex marriage, because he thinks homosexuality is a crime.
In the late 70s and early 80s, sodomy was a felony in all 50 states. That America of that day was not a totalitarian hellhole.
So you would like America to go back to that?
Yep.
Wilson maintains his ultimate goal is to bring about the second coming of Christ through his work, and rejects critics' claims he's trying to make the dystopian world of The Handmaid's Tale a reality.
I'm not a white nationalist. I'm not a fascist. I'm not a racist. I'm not a misogynist.
How far off do you see a Christian nation, like a full-on Christian theocracy?
Oh, 250 years.
250 years.
Yeah, honestly, that's yes.
What you see. But you do think it will happen?
Yes, I do. We're not going to usher in anything ourselves. We're really genuinely pioneers.
And I'm getting really concerned here at this point, because the flip-flopping and the 180ing and the going back is just the biggest train wreck I've ever seen. And it's not in character for you to be acting like this. So we want your agenda to succeed. I've done deep research, never saw you involved with Epstein and criminal activity. So why are you acting like this? You made a deal with the establishment to leave you alone. Have they rolled over? U.S. intelligence we know is involved, Mossad, CIA, MI6, we already know that. But instead, you just continue to say nothing to see here, move along, though go ahead and release information, but there's no information to release. Contradiction for contradiction, flip-flopping to flip-flopping. 180s on 180s on 180s. Jesus, I'm on a roller coaster here. And then, it's only fake news is concerned. Oh, like MTG and Tucker Carlson and myself and Joe Rogan and the American people. This is something that finally got our attention. People finally woke up to this. People finally understand, a window in the deep state with all this. And so you signing on to this and flip-flopping is just self-harming. I mean, please, President Trump, stop. If you want it to go away, just be quiet. It's like there's a gun to his head saying, you better come out and say none of this exists or we'll release it. It's bad. It's getting worse by the minute. And I support you, but we built the movement you rode in on. You're not the movement. You just surfed in on it. And I'm telling you, man, the Democrats we know are pure evil. My God, they promote pedophilia and everything openly. So why the hell are you acting like this? Please stop now.
So the 13th son finally figured out, through the help of a few buzzing cuzzos, that I am not magnetic sun. Now, I do not take claim to those other accounts, but I do take claim to any publicity, Twitter, which he did attribute to magnetic sun, as far as I could tell. See, unlike you, I double check and I make sure before I ever put anything out or whatever. And I don't have to double check too much when it comes to just screenshotting and showing people what you said. That's your problem. And it's really baffling that I can be reported for that. Do you not like your own words? I'm sorry if you can't look into a mirror. I'm not sorry, but I'm just saying. I want to stress that this has never been a cry out for attention from the alleged Heavenly Father that the 13th son professes to be. He also claims to be like the embodiment of the Mother Goddess and the Father too. That was kind of like a plot twist later on with the 13th son. Because as I said, I've watched you for a while. But unlike you, I don't have intentions of creating a cult or anything like that, which you have now slandered me, saying that I'm a cult leader. I want to see the evidence of that, because I've never slandered you. There's not one thing that you will ever see from me that I've slandered you about. Everything I've showed is your words. Anything that I've imitated from you is your words. And you said, I am you. Okay. That's what you said. You said, I am you, or everybody is you. And we're the fallen mirror images of you, pretty much. And we need to like form like Voltron and become Unk. And that's you, right? That's what you say. So, and you said that it could be any, there's people that aren't in TLC or whatever. So like, you're saying, and that's why you're trying to recruit people. And that's why you're on Twitter publicly, not just because of business, but you are trying to spread that gospel of things. So why am I not you either? That's what you said. Okay. So we've established that. You have. But look, I'm also not going to apologize for not being like you effeminate niggers that need a father figure like that. This is not a desperate attempt for attention from anybody. This is just very critical to me to have a opposing voice to something like this. I mean, this isn't some revolutionary act I'm taking, but today's society and everything, and political correctness and idiocracy, it is indeed the ripest time for a messiah like yourself, a black and more messiah, as you call yourself or whatever. It is indeed the ripest time for that, with how everything is, how everybody's mind is fucked up and everything. They're ready for you, They're ready for you. And all I've done here is investigate and highlighted the key esoteric elements of what you're about. You say your parables and everything like that. I'm here to solve your riddle. And that's what I've done, and you don't like that for some reason. Why don't you like that? It's what you said. Even when it comes to the Illuminati card, I mean, you profess that, and people attest to you being able to skinwalk into people, which if people don't know what I'm saying, it's like he's like Agent Smith on the Matrix, and he can like morph into people or whatever. That's what you said. You could be my dog. You could be my, he could be my mom. You could be anybody, couldn't you? That's what you said. And you sit there and you report me for slander and all this and that, and you said you're going to take me to court for slander. That's not slander. That's what you said. You're going to take me to court for what you said. How is that defamation of character by your own words? That's what you said, dude. I don't know what else to tell you, but it's ready to go when you are, I guess. I'm not worried about you on any different level. Okay? Because, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but yeah, you have now slandered me though, for sure, because you have now said that, I want to set the record straight on this before I get too ahead of myself. I have never had a conversation. I've never even had a conversation with Magnetic Sun, unless you want to count that video I made to him as a conversation. Okay. And what did I say at the end of that video? That it's still on Twitter. I made it unlisted because it's just unnecessary to have on public like that. But it's still on Twitter, and yeah, I said that we probably shouldn't work together. We're probably better off separate, or however I said it. I know that's what I said because I'm responsible. I'm like the 13th son. He's had a lot of sway with people, and what he's done with that power is that there's this individual. I'm going to name her in this because it's whatever. She doesn't seem bothered by it or whatever. And it's not going to bother her. It shouldn't. It's not going to do anything to her. It's going to make him look bad, not her. She's a very free-spirited kind of person from what I've observed. I don't know her. He'll probably say I'm in league with her too somehow, and that's okay. That's fine. I don't care what anyone thinks about me. All right, nobody can ever gaslight me about who I am, and I'll say on the record that I've never put my hands on a woman like the 13th son has. I've never pimped anybody. I've never done any of these things, and just because it doesn't make you somebody to go through all that either. That might make you just a punk and a thug without honor to do all that shit. That doesn't mean you're some kind of wise. No, someone who's wise doesn't need to go through all that. And I didn't. And I don't. But you can try to justify it or whatever to play the victim as much as you want to. But, it's all there for people to see. And it will be used against you for claiming to be the Messiah. And maybe you are. Look at what the Prophet Muhammad or whatever, look at what he did. Look at all these people like that. And you very well may be. And like I said, I just want people to make sure, that's all. Because I do agree with you. We are, the end of days are upon us. And yeah, I kind of lost my track of thought, but because I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But the charm, her name is, I don't even know how to say her name. Maybe I should just say it like he does. The charm demon, he calls her, charm melody or charm melodies. I don't know. She has 2 different names on there. And he's sat there and he's used the influence and the power that he has to demonize this female. I don't know what kind of problems they had. She may have been in the wrong. I don't know. But he took a personal issue to a whole nother level and said this is his spiritual, eternal enemy. A demon. And I could show all this. As I've reported to Twitter. Since he wants to report me for being a bully. No. This is what you guys have said and done for years. And that's a double standard and hypocrisy if Twitter decides to treat me like that. Just because of today's society and the discernment people have. And it leans towards, the the victimization of black people like that. Like the victim mentality, you love to play that kind of card with every goddamn thing. So, that's what's going to happen. Even though I'm mixed myself, so... See, and there comes the inner conflict with me. So good luck. And whatever else I might be, as I said before, I'll keep, that's a good tricks up my sleeve. You don't know what I might be. Okay. Oh, I do want to go back about Magnetic Sun. And I said, I made a comment in one video saying he called me he said that he worded it with his ebonics. He called me a Sephardic Jew or whatever. I don't know if he's trying to use a parable or what that means, but either way, he was actually talking about Magnetic Sun when he dropped his name and everything. I don't know how to say his name, but his last name's Perez, and Yeah, he was actually talking about him. And that makes more sense because, Prez, Sephardic, Spanish, you get it. So, I see now. I didn't know because I didn't really think that the 13th. Well, I'm not going to say I didn't think he's that dumb, but I gave him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt that he wouldn't think I'm a completely different person or whatever. After I showed my face and everything, I wouldn't know why he would do that, but he did. So when he said that, when he made that comment, he was actually talking about Magnetic Sun, or whatever his name is, Perez. Okay. So I just want to put that on the record. Now, where else are we going to go with this? So yeah, he's doing the same thing. He did the same thing with him too, with the demonization. And now, since he's just now revealed me just a few hours ago, put his he retweeted Rio Bay, whatever the fuck his name is. This is Rio to. He retweeted his screenshot of me like that's something. Yeah, it's right there, dude. Like that's you're really doing some investigation on me, and you will be held accountable after he made a threat towards me, and he made it clear that he wants to see me dead before court. And you guys send me. You didn't even ask me. You didn't say anything to me. There's not. If this goes to court, it's on the record. Not one of you ever asked me or told me to stop doing anything. What's the first thing that you did? You threatened to kill me. He made it clear that he wanted to see me dead before court. He has a history of being violent. He has a history of threatening people on Twitter. And his buzz and cozos threaten people on Twitter like some thugs from like a Yahweh ben Yahweh cult that he's aligned with. And you people of TLC, you loyal devotees that don't ask questions or anything, even if he could be in the wrong or whatever, you devised a plan to get my IP address to find me after he made those threats. He made clear intent that he said that he wants to see me dead in the worst way possible, a horrible death, before court. Okay? And you guys followed through with that plan that you devised, which was sending me Grabify links and other things on Twitter. So that's pretty conspiratorial, if you ask me. That's not slander. But you will never find one instance of me having a conversation with Magnetic Sun. Not even back and forth, hardly. I'm trying to think. Just, little friendly things, but it's not there's not even a conversation there. It's just like, here's some information, here's a little joke, here's a little music video. That's one thing I remember doing. Here's a disclaimer. Here's a big disclaimer, though. I have never once claimed to be Magnetic Sun. Never. I have never once claimed to be this guy. I look nothing like him. That's ridiculous. And if he's some, and hopefully, and this may show if Magnetic Sun comes to this conclusion, since we do not work together, he may say, was this guy, was he claiming to be me this whole time or something? No, I wasn't. And that's quite evident by me showing my face this whole time and then making these videos. That's clear. Okay? That's quite clear. How could I impose myself as you when my face is all there and everything? Totally different voice. And everything. Now, look, I don't think I look like him, but if people do, then that's whatever. I don't know. Maybe. Look, maybe I even sound like him somehow. I don't know. Never know. But I guess that's all I have to say. I guess a little bonus here is to say to those busybody bees that watch me and everything, and I don't know why it took you that long to tell Rabbi, the 13th son, the 13th apostle, the one and only, that he's wrong in that I am not magnetic sun. And that's the funny thing about this that I definitely should not forget to mention is that he started framing him. Now, I already said that, I think. But yeah, he framed him himself. I never said that. The 13th son did. He slandered, and that's why Magnetic Sun started talking. He retaliated for what you were saying about him because you couldn't take 2 seconds to look at a Twitter page and make sure you're not wrong and you're not omniscient because you think you are. Okay? That's exactly what happened. And here you are, and you're fucked once again. So, see you on the streets, see you in court, whatever. You're going to lose all the way through. Before or after my death, you'll lose. Because that's what I was going to say as a bonus is, as I said, Kozos, there's no doubt in what I show. Look, if he was really God or something like that, logic wouldn't defy him. But I have defied logic with some of the stuff I've showed, with many things I've showed on my end. And like I said, they're not lying signs and wonders. And I'm not part of your play. And you are a pawn to your own prophecy.